Hello, welcome to my market update, and today I will be going over something special. We can see at the moment Bitcoin dominance is looking like it's going to fall through this level. Well, it is in the process of falling through the level, and if we start to get closures below, we can start to assume that there will be continuation to the downside. And that is good news for altcoins, mostly, because major altcoins are probably going to be the ones that run first. But in terms of the smaller altcoins, that could be a bit of a trickier situation. So I'll make this quick, hopefully, but I've got 4 charts here for you. And this is the bottom 2 charts, so we're not confused. Please pay attention to the dates of the lines. I'll make this green so you know which chart to associate it with. Green with green, yellow with yellow. Right 2 charts are tether dominance, and left 2 charts, main candle charts, are Bitcoin, and the purple line is Bitcoin dominance, and the green line is Ethereum. And I want people to, I guess, recognize that Ethereum represents the majors in the alts, because you have, in terms of last cycle, the first major rally for alts when Ethereum started to, or tether dominance, Bitcoin dominance started to drop, as you can see here. A lot of the gains were made in this massive drop in the likes of Dogecoin, Ethereum, I think Litecoin, Monero, etc. All the most relevant front of mind altcoins, and not the niche altcoins like your AVAXs and DOTs, which actually stagnated during this major Bitcoin dominance drop off. They only started to run in further distribution at the lows after a large correction, because they had already run already. That being said, not every cycle is made the same, and I'm not saying that not all altcoins will run, because I do see the likes of, what do we got? We have, I think Hype might be running. We've got Pendle starting to run as well. But let's analyze the charts here. If you watch my previous videos, you would recognize why this tether dominance area is a significant level in terms of maybe pivoting, or likely to be pivoting downwards. I've crunched the numbers, and the actual probability of us doing a third drive, so 1, 2, 3, third drive to a new 1618, is 12.5%. So if we know that in this region that we're going to run to 12.5, 1618 at 12.5%, it's best to, understand that something like this might be coming up ahead, perhaps for more risk on alts, right? However, in saying that, the major alts do have potential to make the first move. And almost, like I said, I'm not saying that your altcoin's not going to pump right now. What I'm trying to say is that you've got higher odds being in the likes of Ethereum and major altcoins like Dogecoin, etc., right? Not all altcoins can get the liquidity. There are 10 million plus altcoins at the moment, so yeah, do the maths. But as you can see, in the first major high in Bitcoin in 2021, not saying we're at the major high at the moment, but we're probably at a local-ish high. The breakdown of Bitcoin dominance occurred during this sort of distribution phase, right? And Bitcoin is at, let me draw something out for you. Bitcoin's in this little channel thing here right now. I think it's more like this, actually. Like that, right? Bitcoin's stuck in a channel in this range. It's being held under, not fully, but it's retaining underneath this 0.618, 0.65 level. And it's sort of similar to here, right? I'm not saying that Bitcoin can't go high here and then go down. Very possible. But, and there could be fluctuations all the way down to this 786 level before going back up for tether dominance. Hopefully everyone's following. This is a lot of inverses going on. But for Ethereum, I do think any volatility felt by Bitcoin in the coming, move here, it might do this, like that. Maybe perhaps in this penis right here is where Ethereum starts to push towards all-time highs. Maybe it rejects off that level. I'm not sure, but it does look pretty good, like a good situation for Ethereum to maybe continue pushing up, because the tether dominance, the Bitcoin dominance is starting to break those lows, and if it continues to go down, you'll probably see it continuing to the upside. What else did I want to say? That's sort of it. In terms of Bitcoin and expectations there, I guess, I do think, let's reduce it back down to 2 charts. And on the right side, I'll just have tether dominance. And I'll start removing these lines again. Sweet. I do think, I don't know why these lines have gone more wonky. I do think some sort of move like this is still very much on the cards with a high likelihood, unless we start taking out this 1618 level. What I'm doing is watching these levels, watching Ethereum rise and taking profits, essentially. And if we start breaking this 1618, riding whatever I have left to the upside and playing it by ear going forward. But should something like this happen, you have the situation where Ethereum and altcoins do extreme moves to the downside, which are very unpleasant to, ride out. La la la, la la la. Okay. So this is that Ethereum break of the tether dominance, and then the subsequent fall after. I'm not saying that this type of, every market and every cycle is built different. I don't believe we're going to have a period of 100+ days in the range. We're sort of closing in on the end of the year. And I guess to provide context, I do think that the cycle remains a 4-year cycle until proven otherwise. And one of the base assumptions now would be that Bitcoin would hit all-time highs by the end of the year. And I could be completely wrong about that, right? And the measurement that I was looking at, I'm not going to measure it again. You guys can watch my previous videos. Approximately 150 to 180. Pretty wide range, right? But in order for us to kind of get there using that tether dominance chart previously that I was showing you, by the end of the year, maybe we get something like, I don't know, I'm going to put a sideways line because it can go either way from here. But essentially maybe end of August, we start going down until the October, like going down during September, right? And then going up till November-ish, and then going down, right? Let's just count this place as noise. And that, when you zoom out, it doesn't look so far-fetched, does it? And this could even go lower, right? Sweeping that low here. And it would hurt the most amount of participants in the market. If going straight up here seems unlikely from my thesis on tether dominance at 12.5%, and this is the more likely outcome at, how many percent is that? 87.5%. I feel more comfortable taking profits as we start chugging along here. So what am I looking at here? Watching BitTensor move towards the rebound zone. When I look at BitTensor and let's say, for example, Pendle, some coins are sort of moving together in this market. So it's very interesting. So let's have a look at Pendle. Pendle has sort of moved in a very similar fashion to Bitcoin. So no, to BitTensor. Let me remove this. And let me make this a lot more visible somehow. Nope. Perfect. Generally, these two coins move in a way where one leads, one lags, right? As you can see, if the price occurs beforehand, it has led. So in this circumstance, BitTensor was leading, Pendle. After BitTensor starts doing this sort of consolidative move or correction, Pendle starts to move up, distribution occurs there. BitTensor moves again, Pendle mirrors this, makes a high. BitTensor is leading. They move in tandem, BitTensor leads to the upside. Pendle leads to the downside. BitTensor then follows to the downside after. BitTensor. Pendle actually leads on the bounce. BitTensor leads on this bounce. Sorry. Pendle leads on this bounce. BitTensor follows. Move in tandem. Move in tandem. Pendle is starting to lead. So at the moment, perhaps BitTensor has opportunity to catch up to go to those highs, but we'll have to see about that, won't we? At the moment as well, I do have that Doge long that I was talking about in my previous video. I did end up adding more to that position. I pretty much doubled down at the exact same area after the actual video that I recorded. Like I was saying in my starting opening statements, I do think that the bids are caught by major altcoins. And let me pull up the long-term Doge chart, and it does look really nice when you see Doge breaking out from major arbitrary trend lines, right? Like not arbitrary, but 2-point touch, support, whatever, bing bong, Bitcoin dominance. Let's have a look. So that line here is where that drop occurs, right? And the drop is starting to occur here for us now. Let's have a look at what didn't pump during this section of previous bull market, but actually did have a decent run after the fact. We have your AVAXs and the likes, because a lot of those, you know, tier 2 sort of altcoins which became more mainstream or widely, I guess, known now, didn't really get like a decent bid until after like the majors started to run, right? So let's remove these drawing jigs so we can see. You can see this drop off right here. That's where Dogecoin, Ethereum started to run, right? And the Bitcoin major correction started to occur, and there was and this is why I'm flagging, you know, potential danger ahead, because there's a 70% drop there. I'm not saying we're going to drop 70% on altcoins. I don't think the period of correction is going to be as long as mentioned before. Quick drink. But there are dangers ahead for non-majors should the Bitcoin dominance drop, and you got your Ethereum running, and you got your Tether dominance at a potential major pivot, yielding you like close to 90% of, you know, going upside soon, right? Which will have this occur on some alt, maybe. That's just a danger. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but just something to be very well aware of. And then after the fact, in this distribution phase at the bottom and another leg down, that's when you get your altcoin pumps near the end. And at the moment, we're sort of in this like this July-ish period, right? July, August period. And that was very bullish for altcoins in previous cycle. That being said, let's have a look at a even larger chart. And I've marked out some key levels here. I know that I just said that period was bullish for altcoins, but not always the case. It just depends on the context as well, because when that occurred, right, which was the Bitcoin dominance thing that I was speaking about just then, that was at a major pivot downwards, whereas this was the last phase where the Tether dominance has already dropped. There's already risk on, because Ethereum had run already, distribution of that liquidity to the smaller alts, etc. Now we need Ethereum to break the all-time high sort of first. We don't need it to, but like that is the general narrative. Ethereum runs first and then everything else afterwards. So the white line that I have at the moment on the chart represents the end of August, right? Purple line represents start of August. End of August being September, apologies. As you can see historically in bull market peaks marked in potential green for this cycle in December. This marks end of November. This is marked December, and this is marked December, so end of the year, right? White lines before that, September, looks like a down month every single time. It's followed by a sharp correction. So at the moment we have a sample size of 3. 100% of the time in August we have a rally in the end cycle year, and then we have a correction. Doesn't this coincide with the analysis that I just showed you, right? We have maybe a bit more potentially of a leg up before a correction, and perhaps we see a lot of this occur in your Ethereum and your major altcoins. So you have like maybe like a little push, and then down into this end of September, maybe down to the October period. I'm just gonna draw an arbitrary line again, and then the last leg up into the end of the year, blow off top, whatever, and that's the end of the cycle, right? Hopefully this has, given you guys some insight on like what you can potentially do next. I'm not gonna call out any trades, etc. At the moment, it's sort of like all bets are down. You should be in your positions. Expect volatility and watch your backs as the market progresses. Cheers.